Okay, so here we go, another meditation. So close your eyes. Experience your body. And be kind to your body. You can ask your body, is there anything I can do for you right now to make you more comfortable? If there is something you can do, adjusting your legs, your body, scratching, loosening some tight pieces of clothing, please do that. This is kind attention to details. Still keep aware of your body. If there's anything you can do even now to make it more comfortable, please do so. Once the body is settled down, bring your awareness to the present moment. Doesn't matter what's been said in the past or done in the past. You've carried that around for too long already. Doesn't matter what's going to happen in the future. I'll leave that till later. For those of you who have a hard time being in the present moment, you can do that mental exercise called the Two Heavy Suitcases. You literally imagine you're carrying a very heavy suitcase in your left hand and another heavy suitcase in your right hand, which you've been carrying a long time already. The suitcase in your left hand stands for your past. All your memories, good and bad, are packed into that suitcase which you've been carrying around for such a long time. Suitcase in the right hand represents your future. The plans, good and bad, the fears, the worries, the concerns about what's going to happen next, which you also carry around until your arm gets so tired. You feel the weight of those two suitcases representing the past and the future. Now you imagine the suitcase in the left hand, the past, being lowered to the ground. And you fill this imagination up with as many details as possible. If you can imagine the ache and the pain, and imagine what happens when the suitcase reaches the ground and the weight disappears. And taking your hand away from the suitcase and letting it hang and relax by your side. You've let go of the past. You feel the suitcase in the right hand. You feel its weight representing your future and your worries and concerns. You imagine yourself lowering that suitcase down to the ground, lowering it until it meets the ground. When it's on the ground, the weight disappears. You put down your future, moving the hand away from the handle, so you can rest. With those two suitcases containing all your past and all your future, just let go of for a few moments. So now you can just focus on what's left, just being here in the present moment, just now. Sound is here in this moment. Accept it with unconditional awareness, embracing this moment as it is, making peace with the moment, opening the door of your heart to this moment, which is really our life. Give things a name, or having a conversation. In this moment, you know it, and stop speaking about it. If you want to give an instruction, you can do so, but after the instruction is given, be silent to leave the mind enough time to do its job. Still in the moment, with silence, notice the breath go in, go out, until it becomes a beautiful breath, a delightful breath. Thoughts, feelings, even sounds, where you're being like the archer, focusing on the eyeball of the bird, and now you're focusing on the breath. How do you feel? What's it like inside of you? Do you understand when in the story of the 5 children playing the wishing game, if you are content, then that's a path of peace, of letting things be, of the mind stopping. So you can spend these last few moments in contentment, not going anywhere, not wanting anything, just being. Is that it's not you, the observer, it's not what you're observing in meditation which is a problem. It's always what's between the two of you, the observer and the observed. In meditation we have what's called the hindrances, or the defilements if you like, and the biggest two of those defilements are the desire and ill will. And very often, if you look to what's between you and your meditation object with its present moment awareness, silence, the breath or whatever, it's very important to see not just what you're observing, but how you're observing it. What's between you and that object? If you find that that's wanting, I want to get somewhere in meditation, if you see that there's desire between you and what you're observing, or if you see there's ill will, you don't want this dullness, you don't want this restlessness. Or if you see that there's fear there, you don't want, you're afraid of what you're experiencing. Whatever it is which is a negative thing between you and what you're experiencing, that's what we call the hindrances. The hindrances is what's between you and your goal. So here we get a lot of advancement in meditation by putting a lot of attention into not what we're meditating on, not what stage we're on, but actually how we're proceeding. We put more focus on the process rather than the achievements. So how are you meditating? Are you really making peace with every moment? Are you really opening the door of your heart with metta to this moment, whatever it happens to be? Are you really just leaving it alone with a pure mind? Or are you trying to get somewhere, or trying to get rid of things? Because you'll find that once we get rid of those hindrances to success in meditation, once we do really make peace with every moment, we find that this is the way to create the very powerful, easy successes in meditation. I gave a talk, I think in Perth, a few weeks ago, called A House of Peace. Just using a simile for the way we build houses in many parts of the world with bricks. And to build a house out of brick, you have to lay every brick one after the other in turn, in sequence. And after you've laid many, many bricks, you have this beautiful house in which you can live. In the same way, for meditation, we have to lay many moments of peace, one after the other. Making peace with this moment, making peace with the next moment, making peace with the next moment. And when you've made many moments of peace in sequence, you find you have built what we call the house of peace, samadhi or deep meditation. You don't make a brick house except with bricks. You cannot make a house of peace except with many, many moments of making peace in succession. And you have to be patient as well, because it does take a time to develop the silence and the peace of the mind. But once you do it that way, you can find this beautiful peace, this beautiful energy, this beautiful stillness of the mind. You built your house of peace. That's actually how we meditate. Any comments or questions about that? Yes. It's not so much, that simile only works because it's these moments of peace. It doesn't really matter what we're making peace with, whether peace with the breath, or even with restlessness, or sleepiness, or with thoughts. As long as we make peace with it, we find that everything becomes very still and calm. What's happening here is another simile of Ajahn Chah's. He would often put his hand out and he'd say, the only reason why a leaf moves on a tree is because of the wind. And if you stop the wind, then the leaf moves less and less. It doesn't stop immediately. It moves less and less and less. And until after a time it stops moving altogether. Because the nature of a leaf is to be still. It only moves because of winds. So it's the same with the mind. Its nature is to be still and peaceful. It only moves because we interfere. And as it were, our wanting and our cravings and our ill will and our fear, that's what makes our mind move. And the way to keep that leaf absolutely still is to protect it from the wind. So we protect our mind from these defilements of desire and ill will, fear and things, by protecting it, by making peace in every moment. And then the mind becomes still all by itself. It's calm. There's another of the similes which maybe make this point. It's one of my favourite similes. The simile of the donkey and the carrot. In southern Europe, many years ago, before they had internal combustion engines, in other words cars, they used to transport people and goods with donkey carts. And I think many of you know that donkeys are incredibly stubborn. That even if you hit them, they will not move. That's why we have the phrase, as stubborn as a donkey. And the only way you can make a donkey move is not with the stick, it's with the carrot. So what you do is you tie a stick to the back of the donkey's back, and the front end of the stick is about 2 feet in front of the donkey's head. On the end of that stick you tie a string, on the other end of the string you tie a carrot. So a donkey sees this delicious carrot right in front of it, and so it moves to get to the carrot. But because the stick's on the back of its neck, and on the top of the end of the stick is a string, and on the end of the string is a carrot, when the donkey moves towards the carrot also moves away from the donkey. And that way the donkey keeps moving, trying to get the carrot, and thereby pulls the cart. And that's actually how the donkey cart works. And also, the owner doesn't have to waste so many carrots. However, it was about 50 years ago, I think, that Buddhism started to go into Europe. And that was the time when they had to stop using donkey carts. Because even the donkeys became Buddhists and learned how to catch the carrot. And you know how the donkey caught the carrot? How the donkey catches a carrot. It runs like hell after that carrot. But does it catch the carrot? It can't, because the carrot's always in front. But what the Buddhist donkey knows how to do, the Buddhist donkey knows how to stop. So the Buddhist donkey stops. And as soon as it stops, the carrot goes even further away than it's ever been before. Now that's what happens in your meditation. Sometimes when you make peace, you don't struggle and strive. When you stop, sometimes you get more sleepy or more restless. But wait, be patient. Because soon that carrot is further away than it's ever been before. And the donkey is patient, stops. But then, when the carrot reaches the end of its trajectory, it starts swinging back again. And soon that carrot is at its normal position, about 2 feet in front of the donkey's mouth. But now, for the first time ever, the carrot is coming towards the donkey, instead of the donkey going towards the carrot. And the carrot is coming at such a fast speed, all the donkey needs to do is just to wait to the appropriate moment and say, "The door of my mouth is open to you, carrot." And the carrot comes into the donkey's mouth. That's how the donkey catches the carrot, running fast and then stopping. Carrot goes further away and swings back right into the donkey's mouth. And that's actually how you meditate. You've already been running around fast enough. So all we need to do now is to stop. When you stop, the carrot of peace and happiness goes further away at first. But wait. And after a while it starts coming towards you. You're sitting here. You're doing nothing. And all these beautiful, peaceful, happy states start coming to you. You're not chasing peace and deep meditation anymore. All these deep, peaceful, beautiful meditations are now chasing you. They come towards you. You just sit there, enjoy every moment, and just open your mouth. Thank you. Now you're peaceful. So that's actually how a donkey catches a carrot. It's a great simile of how meditation works. Okay, so how many of you donkeys have stopped now? If you're still chasing the carrot, it always moves away from you. Now there's this wonderful story in the early years of Ajahn Chah's monastery, where there was a little novice monk. And this little novice monk, they always have these, tiny monks, maybe 8, 9, 10 years of age, who become monks because they've got too many children in the family and the parents can't look after them, or maybe some problem in the family that somebody's killed or injured and they can't be looked after. So they always like the monasteries look after the little monks. So there's this little novice monk in Wat Ba Pong many years ago, and he was listening to a sermon from Ajahn Chah. Now, many of you have heard Ajahn Chah's teachings. We have books of Ajahn Chah's teachings, but when I read those books, sometimes it's hard to recognize that was my teacher, Ajahn Chah. Because what the sermons do, they take out the very best, the cream. And you don't have to be like I used to do when I had to sit through hour after hour after hour of these talks. And a lot of it, and I can say this because I was a disciple of Ajahn Chah, a lot of it was really boring. But it was worthwhile listening for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours sometimes, because you just get these wonderful snippets of wisdom every now and again. But in the books of Ajahn Chah, they've just taken those beautiful parts and they've edited out all the rubbish. So actually that's what it was like. Sometimes he would talk all night and it was just so boring and uninteresting. But on this occasion, one evening, after the chanting, Ajahn Chah started giving one of these long, boring talks. You just had to sit there. Even though you wanted to go to the toilet, you couldn't. You had to sit there and wait till he was finished. You never knew when he was going to finish. And this little novice, he was starting getting very upset. I'm only a little fellow. It's all right for these big monks. Now, a little novice, 11, 12 years of age, needs his sleep. And so he's getting more and more upset. He kept on thinking, when is Ajahn Chah going to stop? When is Ajahn Chah going to stop? And it became like one of these old-fashioned records. He kept on repeating this to himself again and again for an hour or more. When is Ajahn Chah going to stop? When is Ajahn Chah going to... When is he going to stop? And then in one moment, he just changed the words around. Instead of when is Ajahn Chah going to stop, the thought came into his mind, when am I going to stop? And the little novice stopped. When he opened his eyes, it was early morning. He'd missed the alms round, I think. He just got into a beautiful meditation for the first time in his life. When the talk had finished, he never knew when the talk had finished. He'd been deep inside himself, not being able to hear anything, not being able to hear the chanting at the end of the talk, or hear the bell being rung. He just carried on sitting there, not knowing what was going on around him, until the early morning. So happy, so peaceful. The first time he got into a deep meditation. And I tell that story because he stopped. It's a wonderful story because that's actually how you get into deep meditation. You stop going places, you stop doing things, you stop making it happen. You just stop and you wait, you're still. And in that stopping, that's where stillness comes. In that stillness comes energy. The deep, blissful, peaceful meditations all come because you stop. So understanding that, in whatever city of the world you are in every crossroads you will find the Dhamma. It's called the red stoplights. Telling you, stop. So when you get caught in a traffic jam or in the red lights, when your car has to stop, please, you stop as well. Don't send your mind ahead of your car. And that way, when you stop, you understand what Dhamma is. Peaceful, waiting in a moment. When there's nothing to do, do nothing. Be still. Enjoy the moment. And you have lots and lots of peace and energy and good health. Okay, now let's have some questions. Yeah. Okay, you're talking about the labeling and noting type of meditation. That might be okay at the beginning of the meditation, just to actually to focus yourself on what's happening. But after a while, it's good to let go of all the labels. Sometimes people think that's all you need to do to label things. And I usually tell the story, it's a bit of a cheeky story, about this woman who came to a meditation retreat, and she was doing this labeling. You know, a thought comes up, thought, feeling in the body, feeling, noting. But she was quite a wealthy lady in Bangkok, and she was afraid of burglars sneaking into her house. So she told, the guard on the house, be mindful. There are burglars around. I'm going off to the temple to do a meditation day. I want you to be mindful, because I know there's burglars have robbed the houses in this street. And after the beautiful meditation day, she goes back home and she's found there's been burglars in her house. And she tells the guard, I told you to be mindful. Look, we've been robbed. And the guard said, Madam, I was mindful. When the burglars came in, I've noted burglar going in, burglar going in, burglar going in. When they were going out with your jewellery, I noted jewellery going out, jewellery going out, jewellery going out. Burglars going in again, going in again, going in again. Plasma screen TV, chandelier going out, going out, going out. I was very mindful. Obviously that's not good enough, is it? Noting isn't good enough. You have to find some way of stopping the burglars. You know, one of the best ways of stopping burglars coming into your house is having lots of good friends in your house. Because burglars only go into empty houses. One of the most wonderful ways of stopping like defilements coming into your mind is having wonderful, wholesome qualities in your mind. Inspiration, happiness, joy means the defilements can't get in. So when you have peace, happiness, joy, the negative thoughts just can't come in the mind. That's why when you do get happy meditations, you find that the negative ill will just can't come in. When you go home, you've had a lovely meditation, nice and peaceful and happy and joyful. You just cannot get angry at your husband or your wife or your kids. It's great when you are peaceful and happy. Nothing will upset you. But if you're tired, now, late in the afternoon, you'd actually go and see the headman of the village, the Gamnan, and tell him you've arrived, and he would actually show you where the water is, a nice place to put your mosquito net umbrella. When you're really, really happy, nothing upsets you. So you can note things at the very beginning, just to focus, but then after a while, try and be quiet and just watch. It's the same as sometimes we use mantras to help watch the breath, especially. You know the old mantra used by the forest tradition, people like Ajahn Brahm, they use the Bhutto mantra. You're breathing in, you know Bud, out to Bhutto, 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 Bhutto. Because in places like Australia, they're not really Buddhists. That doesn't work for non-Buddhists because, for a Buddhist, Bhutto is something sacred and very meaningful. So usually in Australia, I use another mantra. I tell the Australians, when you breathe in, you don't chant Bud. You say to yourself, shut. As you breathe out, up. Shut. Up. Shut. Up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. There's the old Thai forest monk, Ajahn Brahm, in Bhutto Monastery. I went to stay with him once, and he told this story. He said there was this forest monk, and he was wandering from place to place in the jungles. And in those days, you'd usually try and find the nearest village. Late in the afternoon, you'd actually go and see the headman of the village, the Gamnan, and tell him you've arrived. And he would actually show you where the water is, a nice place to put your mosquito net umbrella to stay the night. And also, he'd know you'd be there in the morning, so they could get some alms food for you. That was actually the tradition of the Tudong monks. Wherever you went to, find the village, in the afternoon, tell the Gamnan you're there, so he knows who you are, and they can expect you the following day. So this monk, forest monk, he found the nice village. He went to see the Gamnan, the headman of the village, and told him he'd just come as a Tudong monk. It's a nice place to meditate. And the headman actually warned him there was a tiger in the area who'd actually eaten many of the water buffalo, and it was very dangerous. And as soon as the monk heard, there's a tiger here, he said, I'm not afraid of tigers. And the villagers say, look, it's dangerous, monk. Don't be too proud. It's better if you stay in the village here. He said, no, I'm a forest monk. I'm not afraid. He said, look, it's a dangerous tiger. It will eat you. It's not a Buddhist tiger. And he said, no, look, I'm going to show my faith in meditation, my faith in the Dhamma. I'm going to take me to where that tiger comes. And the villagers were quite impressed. So they took him along one of these paths through the jungle where the tiger path crossed. Because the tigers have their own paths through the jungle. He said, right, I'm going to put my mosquito net right here on the tiger path. And he did that. And the villagers thought, wow, this is a real monk, not afraid of tigers. I seen a tiger once. I faced a tiger. It was only about a few feet away from me. True. In a zoo. Iron bars between us. So anyway, there they were. He put his mosquito net up there. And all the villagers, they went home, to Gin Kao Yin, have something to eat. And they left the monk there to meditate. And this monk, this is what he did. He did the Bhutto Meditation. A good monk. He was sitting there nice and peacefully, Bhutto. And usually what happens, the more peaceful you get, the slower your breath gets. Bhutto. Bhutto. So peaceful, so calm. For many hours. But then, late at night, he heard a sound of something coming towards him. Along the tiger path. Instead of Bhutto, he started to get Bhutto, 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 Bhutto. When this animal came closer, Bhutto, 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 Bhutto. And he couldn't help himself but open his eyes. And there, just in front of me, saw this big tiger. His mantra changed. Tiger, 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 tiger. Circlong, circlong. And then before he knew what he was doing, because when you're afraid you lose all your mindfulness, he was out of it. He didn't know how he got out from underneath his mosquito net. And he was running towards the village. And not only did he maintain his mantra, tiger, 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 it got louder and louder. Tiger, tiger, tiger. And that became his mantra with his breath. Now the problem is that he was running. Monks are not allowed to run. You know why? Because the way we wear our robes, there is no buttons, there is no zips. And when you run in these robes, they tend to fall off. Not just the outer robes, but the inner ones too. And by the time this monk came into the village, waking everyone up with his mantra, tiger, 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 he was what we call in Buddhism a naked ascetic. He lost all his robes. And the villagers saw this naked monk who was not afraid of tigers going through the village. And Ajahn Brahm told me that story because sometimes that you may think you're tough and not afraid, but sometimes you don't know if you will be afraid or not until you actually face a tiger, or you face a ghost, or you face the things you're afraid of. But he always said that that's the mantra which you have when you're afraid. Not Bhutto, Bhutto, but tiger, tiger, tiger. It was one of Ajahn Brahm's stories. Because when I was stayed in Bangkok, just close by a man had come because a tiger had come into this forest monastery. Not tiger, sorry, an elephant, a big elephant. And the elephants are very dangerous. And the monks had been a bit scared. The head monk of the monastery, he'd actually jumped out the window. The kutis are like one story up because he was afraid of the elephant. So he said, Ajahn Brahm, or Brahma said, do you want to go meet elephant? I said, yes. So that next day I went to meet the elephant. The elephant had gone, very upset. But I've seen an elephant in the zoo. No, I've seen the elephants in Thailand and in Sri Lanka. They're very kind. Yes, question. Now we get something controversial. Should one learn what the Buddha taught in the Abhidhamma? It's controversial. I don't mind saying this, because I've gone on record saying this. Because I'm like a Western monk with a good education, and going according to Het Pon, evidence, it's very, very clear the Buddha never taught the Abhidhamma as we know it. There's lots of evidence for that. First of all, in the account of the first council, after the Buddha's Mahaparinibbana, what we're celebrating on Thursday, one of the three events, Mahakassapa, one of his chief disciples, realized if we don't meet together soon, all the teachings may be lost, because you gave a teaching to this monk and a teaching to another monk. Let's all meet together so we can actually collect all these teachings. And they did meet together, in the Satapani cave outside of Rajagaha. 500 arahats, including Ananda, who just got enlightened that morning. And it says very clearly that Upali, the Arahat Upali, recited the Vinaya first of all. When he had finished, then Ananda, the Arahat Ananda, Anon, recited the Pancha Nikaya, the 5 Nikayas, which, if you know your Buddhism, means the Digha Nikaya, the Majjhima Nikaya, the Samyutta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, and the Khuddaka Nikaya. There's no mention at all about Abhidhamma in the account of the first council. It's not mentioned there at all. Number 2, the Abhidhammas of all the different types of Buddhism, because Buddhism split up after maybe, some people say 50 years, 100 years after the time of Buddhism, after the time of the Mahaparinibbana. And our Vinayas are so similar, they're almost exactly the same. The suttas are almost exactly the same. The Abhidhammas are completely different. So because what is common to all the traditions, we think must be original, our common core, and what's different is what was added by this school or the Theravada school or some other school. That's evidence number 2. Another evidence number 3 is a great sutta. It's called the Gudisana Sutta, where it says what is expected of forest monks. And they say a forest monk should be an expert, even more than the city monks, in Abhivinaya and Abhidhamma. Actually, not just Abhidhamma, but Abhivinaya. And the word Abhi means like deeper. If you say like a forest monk is an expert in Abhivinaya, you know the forest monks here, what are they recognized as being more strict in their Vinaya, more restrained than the city monks? That's what it really means, that their sense restraint, their simplicity is supposed to be greater than those monks who live in the cities. And their Abhidhamma, why would a forest monk expect to be more versed in Abhidhamma than the city monks? It was obviously, Abhidhamma was nothing to do with studies. It was the deeper understanding of the Dhamma because of your meditation. As Ajahn Mahabua would often say, hitting his chest, I've done this, try to imitate him, I kept on hurting my chest. He would thump his chest really hard and go, Abhidhamma's in here, Abhidhamma's in here. This is Abhidhamma, inside, not in the books. And you have to agree with him there. The Abhidhamma originally was your own deep understanding. The Vinaya and the Suttas were the original teachings. And lastly, again, because of I was always trying to be reasonable and rational, that there was people like Professor A.K. Warder, because I was at Cambridge, and he was one of my heroes, a professor of Pali at Cambridge. And he tried to answer that question, what was the original teachings of the Buddha? And he used what was called like using language. Language changes over the years. If you look at a book, say, through like Shakespeare, and then look at a book like by Charles Dickens, and then look at a book, say, by Stephen King, the language actually changes. So if you look at a book and you've got no idea when that was written, you look at the type of words used, the style of the language, you can date it within about 20 years. Because styles change, even in Thai. If you look at a Thai book written 100 years ago, look at one written 50 years ago, look at one written today, the language is completely different. So if you've got like a newspaper, say a Thai Rat today and Thai Rat 20 years ago, and you even didn't see the date, you get a good idea when that must have been written. And that's what we use to find out the Abhidhamma. This is the Pali. You can actually date that to about 100 years after the time of the Buddha. So that's actually why the Abhidhamma is pretty clear it was not written by the Buddha. Of course, that's controversial. But it's good that monks, modern Buddhists or whatever, we don't just believe, but we, Dham Het Pon. We follow according to the facts. And that's actually how Buddhism becomes modern Buddhism. It doesn't actually reject all of the truth of Buddhism, but it gets rid of some of the dead weight. Yeah, go on. No, it's from the later monks. The Abhidhamma is certainly from the later monks. It's not wrong. Some of it is. Some of it is mistaken because it goes against the sutras, but the majority of it is okay. We're not saying that, it's all rubbish. It's valuable, but it does not need to be taken as authoritative. So where the sutras say one thing, the teaching of the Buddha says one thing, and the Abhidhamma says something different, you must always prefer the original teachings. And that's much better. And it's also a great relief. Because, some people's minds, they just can't get around that Abhidhamma. It's so complicated. You have to remember so many lists. Oh my goodness, it gives you a headache sometimes. So that's why it's a great relief to realize you don't have to read all those books and study all those courses. It's much more important to have peace in your heart than too much knowledge about all these things. It's good to understand, basic Buddhism and a lot of the sutras and the teachings. But it's most important to meditate and to see that truth for yourself. Yeah. Okay. Okay, yes. If there is something which keeps recurring in your meditation, such as there is sort of a recurring memory or any other bad habit which comes up in the meditation, like always reoccurs, should you try and investigate it to find its cause? The problem is that unless one has got a very powerful mind, you won't be able to see its real cause. Because as long as there's hindrances there, you never actually see things as they truly are. You only see things as they appear. This is the problem here. That it's those hindrances which actually bend reality to suit you. Like a good example of that is when you fall in love. Or before you fall in love. When you've got a boyfriend or a girlfriend when you were young, where did you go out together? You go to the candlelit restaurants. You go to the nightclubs where it's dark. You go out in the moonlight where you can't really see each other. Because it's only when you can't really truly see what you're going out with that you can fall in love with each other. No one ever falls in love in the middle of the day in the bright sunlight. It's true. All the romantic places are dark places, aren't they? Have you figured out why that is? Because, in the candlelight, that ordinary looking guy you're going out with, You know, they can look like Brad Pitt. And that spotty girl, you can't see her spots, you know, in the moonlight. You know, she looks like, who's the beautiful girl these days? I don't know. Who? Angelina Jolie. Looks like Angelina Jolie. Because that's what fantasy does. In the darkness, you don't see what's there, you see what you want to see. What's going to excite you and make it all romantic. So you fall in love and get married. And a couple of years later you think, why on earth did I marry that guy? Now you know why. And when you get in an argument, you can't see anything good in the guy at all. You can't see anything good in your wife. That's also not seeing the truth. There's a lot of good in that person. But when we're angry, we can't see anything good at all. We're actually bending the truth to fit our anger. And that's one of the problems, because we can't really see things unless all our desire and ill will are just completely subdued. So when our mind is seeing things they truly are, not what we want to see, not in denial to what we don't want to see, then we can actually find out where these things are coming from. That's why it's best to leave off investigation until the mind is very, very still. Otherwise, you just go around in circles. It's the best way to be wise. Be still. So you don't see what you want to see. You don't see what you don't want to see. You don't deny what you don't want to see. You know, it's a real strange thing why people get cancers. The body keeps telling you and telling you and telling you to slow down and relax. You just don't listen. You're in denial. You don't see what's there. You see what you want to see. And anything which is unpleasant, you just block out of your consciousness. If we were only more mindful, and I mean not denying what's happening, but being truthful to our condition of our body, you will hear the signs of your body saying, look, relax, don't worry so much, take it easy, give yourself some time, and you won't get so many diseases and problems. It's because we don't see these things coming, even though the body keeps telling us again and again and again, look, it's in trouble, rest, please be quiet. And it gets so bad, they have this saying in the West, that death is nature's way of telling you to slow down. But by that time it's a bit late. So I wouldn't go investigating yet. I'd wait for a while. However, if you've got a problem in meditation which keeps coming up again and again and again and again, instead of investigating, it's not that difficult to get around it. And I use what I call the simile of a snake, because again, from my early life this was in Wat Pah Pong, when we didn't have these flashlights because there was no batteries. We didn't even have sandals. Many times I'd go back from the main hall to the hut in the forest, and this was years ago, and there were heaps and heaps of snakes in that forest. You know, once, this is one of the stories I like telling, another snake story. We used to meditate all night once a week on the one prat days. I remember once meditating all night, and you felt, in the early morning you feel pretty dull. But, I'd be meditating there, doing the morning chanting, I went out to urinate. And because it's in the forest, in the jungle, you can just urinate in the bushes. So it was the first light of day, it was already, not fully light. So I crouched down and started urinating in the forest. I thought I was urinating on a stick. But then the stick started to move. I was peeing on a snake. Worse, the most vulnerable part of the male anatomy was only a couple of inches from that snake's mouth. It was very dangerous, if you know what I mean. But that snake never bit me. It just kept on just moving on its journey. And I was really quite surprised that, if you wee on somebody, a human being, you get into big trouble. And there I was peeing on a snake. But then I realized, after thinking about it, that the reason it didn't bite me is because it thought it was being blessed with holy water. You can't get more holy water than that, can you? So anyway, we've got lots of snake stories. That was one of them, peeing on a snake. So if anyone asks me for holy water, be careful. Numbod. Actually, this is what I saw Ajahn Chah do this, because he would never make holy water, but one of these generals came to see him once. Even now the generals are in power again. In those days, the generals were always in power. So you always would respect the generals. And this, I think, was a major general, came to see Ajahn Chah, asked for holy water. And Ajahn Chah doesn't make holy water, but it was because of the general. He said, okay, come here. Bow your head down. He thought he was going to bow hua, just stroke or blow in it. He said, you want holy water? And he spat on the general's head. And then rubbed it in. And, I knew enough about Thai tradition. I thought, Ajahn Chah's gone too far this time. But he didn't. The general loved every moment of it. He said, oh, sadhu, 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 sadhu. Gee, I really... But he got away with it. So be careful if you ask for holy water from such monks. But anyway, back to the snake story. Because you had to walk at night time in a forest, so you have to use starlight just filtering through the leaves of the jungle canopy. And you had to walk on these paths. There were snakes around, and I had no flashlight, no shoes or sandals. I never got bitten. And the reason was this, because I knew there were snakes around, I was really watching out for them. I was careful, I was super mindful. So if ever I saw like a dark shape across the path, I'd either jump over it or go another way. It could have been just a shadow, it could have been a stick, but it could have been a snake. Because I was always aware and looking out for these problems, I never got bitten. And I use that simile in your meditation. If there's a problem which always comes up, it's like your snake. If you're really on the lookout for that, say you always get into sloth and torpor, you always get sleepy when you meditate. When you start meditating, say, look, that's my snake. I've got to really look out for that one. And what happens is before that sloth and torpor really grabs you, or before that restlessness, that thinking really grabs you, you see it before it comes, and you can take another path. You can avoid the problem. And that simile also works, say, with your married life. If you always tend to get into these arguments with your partner, and you hate it when you argue with the people you love and care for, but it just becomes a bad habit. That's like a snake. So you tell yourself, look, when I go home and see my husband, I see my partner, I'm not going to get into an argument. That's my snake. It's dangerous. And when you do that, and you really tell yourself, I've got to be on the lookout for that, you catch yourself before you get bitten. The husband does something, you're about to get angry at him, but you say no, and you go on another path. It's how you break bad habits. By thinking about them like a snake, by keeping very alert and make sure I'm not going to get involved in that one again. And that's how you break those habits. Either in meditation or in your daily life. Say, you're into smoking, you're trying to give up. Sometimes it's so hard. I never smoked in my life. But those people who do smoke, sometimes the cigarette's in your mouth before you even know it. So we say that, this is my snake, this is my danger. I've got to really be on the lookout for this. When you program yourself and teach yourself that, you actually catch yourself before that cigarette's in the mouth and you can take another course. So that's similar to the snake. If you know it's dangerous, you know it's a problem, it's a big problem, you're on the lookout for it. So you can catch it before it gets you. That's how you can deal with some of the problems either in meditation or the repeated problems which come up. So this is disturbing so many times, I'm going to stop it before it comes. Like a simile of a snake. There we go, it's 4 o'clock. So is that the time to finish off? Is there any other questions? Otherwise I'm going back to Perth. Now usually I do a lot of these like one-day meditations in Australia and other places. Last month in UK. I've done a lot of talking and only a couple of meditations here. I've done it on purpose because I know I'm not going to be around for very long. I want to give you lots of information so you can go back home and meditate alone. You don't need to go to a temple to meditate. You don't need to come together to meditate. You can actually, in your home, in your house, you can always find a corner of a bed where you can put a nice meditation cushion. If you're a Buddhist, a statue of the Buddha. If you're a Christian, a picture of Jesus or Virgin Mary, whatever it is which inspires you, in the corner of your room as your meditation area. And sit down there. You've had enough information here today to go on for a long time. You've got the books and the tapes as well. So now it's up to you. You've got the instructions. Now I give you the homework. And the homework is go and meditate. Be still. Make peace in every moment. Don't worry about forgetting all these things which I've taught you today. You'll be surprised that when you're sitting down there and your problem comes up, all these teachings you've heard from me or other monks or other nuns, other teachers in books, they will all come up at the right time to help you. It's just the way the mind is conditioned. And that way, that the teachings you've heard here today, they're in your mind somewhere, and they'll come up when they're needed. Don't try and remember. Allow the mind to keep the information and give it up to you when you need it. And that way you can have some happy meditation, be very peaceful. Remember the gentleness of this meditation technique. Don't force yourself. Make peace, be kind, be gentle. Slowly just go into each stage of meditation. Recognition, familiarity and ease. Present moment awareness, silence with the breath, beautiful, delightful breath. Eventually going into these beautiful lights and huge amounts of happinesses. They just come naturally. Don't try and force it, allow it to come on its own. You're creating stillness by putting down the cup, letting things be. And that way you get wonderful meditations. Even though every meditation might not be the best, even the so-called worst meditations are still really worthwhile. You relax, you let go, and you become happier, more peaceful, more healthy, and you become a nicer person to live with. So may you enjoy your meditation and have a happy, peaceful, healthy life. Okay, Noon is going to make an announcement.
We're actually going to thank you. On behalf of all the meditators here, age range 13 to 90 years old.
90?
Yes.
Ah, excellent. Very good. Wow.
We would like to join to say thank you, Ajahn, for the valuable teachings you've given us today. And we look forward to your next session here soon in Bangkok or in Jhana Grove Meditation Centre in Western Australia, which is under construction, right?
Yeah, we're building that. It's all for free. So people go to that meditation centre, no charge, when it's built.
Yes, and the teachings today will be downloaded at worldwideweb.bswa.org in about 2 weeks' time.
Very good. That's our website. Every talk I give over in Perth is put on that website, and you can download it, send it to your friends, or if you really prefer it, you can always delete. It's on video streaming as well. Okay, so I wish you all happiness and well-being on the occasion of Wesak, which is for Buddhists a holy time of the year. the best way you can pay respect to a Buddha is not by flowers and incense or going round the stupas. That's a nice thing to do. But the Buddha said the best way of paying respects to a Buddha is to following his teachings and putting them into practice. And today, you've put those teachings into practice by meditating all day. You've done the greatest possible worship on a Wesak day, much more than many other people, by spending the time developing your mind, developing wisdom, keeping precepts, and that way you really have worshipped the Buddha in the highest possible way. Well done. Okay, I'll be sitting at the front here for another half an hour until you let me go. So any other questions or books to sign, I'll be very happy to do so.